So I wanted to kind of bring this up because we're kind of in the year. The influence of certain, I guess, emotions.
I don't know.
I should take this off.
I'm sorry. Okay. We'll get to it.
The importance of presence. So to start today's forgiveness and help, I kind of wanted to begin with, what is it? What's forgiveness? I think it sounds all great, but what is it really?
It's not forgetting.
Eva, could you back up just a foot so we think, that's fine.
It's not forgetting.
Letting go.
Accepting.
Moving past.
Mm-hmm. Because what's the opposite of forgiveness?
Revenge.
She's gotta, if she would only, she did that, so does she.
Blaming.
Blaming, bitterness. What's the hardest thing to forget?
My daughter.
Because yeah, when it's something very close, it's not like someone at the clerk, clerk at the store, you're like incompetent, and you go off. When it's personal, it's harder to forget.
And the thing is 90% of the time I feel like that. And then that 10% jumps up.
How dare, see, it's a, how dare she do this, or why, I have an expectation you didn't meet it. Right. What does it mean to forgive? So if you have an expectation, what does it mean to forgive?
To relax.
Relax the expectation. If you're angry, what does it mean to forgive? Or if you're blaming, what does it mean to forgive? If I'm blaming, what's going to happen if I forgive?
Peace.
Definitely. But I stop doing this. I come back here.
And that's that quote of
Oh, about the
hate
corroding the
corrodes
container.
Hate corrupts the container. Yeah, because if I'm all mad, I was reading a story, I was looking for examples. I was reading a story of, someone whose husband left for a younger woman, and she's all just mad and just hates, and I just want them both to die a painful death.
Yeah.
Is that affecting the newlyweds? No. Or is that affecting the container?
Excuse me, I just have to get a place. I'm sorry. Does that work?
Yeah.
Can someone check the video, make sure her head is not in it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I didn't.
Here, come sit here.
Oh, she's gonna move it. She's gonna move it.
Against my head?
There.
I didn't realize you were.
Oh, well,
You want your whole slide in there with you just on the side?
there we go.
Okay.
Set
Set.
up again the U next
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Set, marker, action.
So is forgiveness really about the other person?
No, it's actually a pretty selfish act.
Not you.
And that's why it was so amazing when after the Charleston shooting, like, the victim families, like, they really immediately forgive.
Yeah. So there's a story I wanted to read briefly on the power of forgiveness for what we're working on, health. So there was a guy that they named Wild Bill when they're releasing the concentration camps after World War II. And they named him Wild Bill, the Americans that came into these camps, because his name had like 9, it was so difficult to pronounce his name, so it was just easy to call him Wild Bill because he had a mustache and had this drawl. So Wild Bill was a man in a concentration camp. When the Americans liberated the camp at the end of the war, they arrested a number of the guards and one of the inmates, who they nicknamed Wild Bill. They called him Wild Bill because he had this unpronounceable name. But they first kind of arrested him because, unlike all his other inmates at the camp who were like skeletons, Wild Bill looked healthy and robust, so they immediately assumed that he must be getting favors from the guards and probably was stealing food from everybody else. But as soon as he was arrested, all the other main inmates said, no, don't arrest him, don't arrest him. He's like the camp angel. He even shares his rations with us, right? He even shares his rations with us. So it seems at the beginning of the war, the Nazis had marched into Wild Bill's town and emptied the apartment building where he lived in the middle of the night. And in front of him, they slaughtered his wife and his 5 children. And they spared Wild Bill because he knew several languages. And so they thought he'd be useful. So Wild Bill said that at that moment, when the Nazis killed his entire family, he made a decision. He could either hate them, and if he did, he would become just like them. Or he could look through the twisted psychology and see the innocence inside and love that. Now, he wasn't a spiritual teacher, he wasn't he was a lawyer, and he knew what hate, what hatred and bitterness could do, and he chose not to go there. He chose to forgive those people immediately. And it doesn't mean that he accepted their behavior, but by living in this space of love, of seeing their innocence, rather than of anger and hate, he was actually able to maintain his health, his weight, and his well-being in the most difficult of times, which is 6 years in a concentration camp. So for me, that is such an example of, if you live from a place that no matter what's happening out there, there's a peace here, there's no blame, there's no you're supposed to be, this shouldn't happen, your body can actually put up with 6 years of eating rotten potatoes. So I think this is a great example of the importance of not letting another human being or another situation determine what's happening in you. And this is a hard one, but fortunately, there are processes to do it. So the first process, so think of someone, a situation, it's better to work specifically in a situation that you felt wronged, that the other person did something that you don't agree, that you want to blame them. And to start the forgiveness process, you need to understand. And the best way to do it is, instead of being from here in your shoes, like Social Security, instead of being here going, you should be doing this, actually, physically, for me, I'm very kinesthetic, very body, so it's easier for me to actually imagine myself as the person who's in the Social Security, who's denying disabilities, and think, where am I working from? What are my limitations? They probably only get to approve 2 people a day, so they're going to approve the 6th or 7th, person who's been asking. And what are they trying to do for themselves in this behavior? And what are they needing? It's like, none of us have it all together, right? They get triggered just as much as we do. So when they're doing that, what are their limitations? It's like if you step into someone else's shoes and you think about what's their history? You know, what's their upbringing? What's their limitations? Huh, I see why they're acting in this way. It's easy. Does anyone have an example that we can maybe kind of look at? Yeah.
The thing about the person in Social Security, part of what they're probably doing it is that they're getting pressure from the top, saying you will only find, 27% eligible, the rest of them you will find not. That way they can keep their track thing going.
Yeah.
So I would say the problem is up.
Yeah, so the limitation of the one who rejected you is their hands are tied. Or if they show in their, in their end of the day input that they've increased 5 new people, $5,000 a month, someone's gonna, right? They're feeding their families. So then you're like, oh, I need to make it understood by them, my need. And the first time around is not going to make it right. And it's probably really hard to be that person who's rejecting. I doubt they came into Social Security to say, yeah, I want to say no to people, right? I want to say no to any disability, any person who has any issues. I want to say, it's your fault. Probably not coming from that. And family, right?
Yeah, that first line, you had me at the first line. Yeah. My daughter's distancing herself because she doesn't like my behavior. Of course, I think my behavior is stellar. But she doesn't. So I like that first line a lot.
And she maybe,
Yeah, well,
doesn't feel empowered, doesn't feel she can manage your personality, vivaciousness.
right. And she has a lot going on in her life
Boundaries.
too.
Yeah.
She has a lot of, well, she's got this now also.
Yeah. So, what is she needing? If you were now looking at the situation not from your personal, because again, the biggest piece is when we take everything personal. If you look at her and look at her situation and what she's going through and her limitations with you and probably with other people as well, what does she need?
Well, she definitely needs space from me. There's no question about
She
that.
needs space.
Yeah.
What else, if you could give her something like a resource, like an ability, like a way of being that would support her, what would that be?
I am stuck on that. I do not know.
So if you become her, and you're like, okay, I just need to avoid. I need to avoid mom. I need to avoid this. I need to avoid that. Why do you think she's doing that? What does that give her when she does that?
Well, I don't know. Power?
Does this look like
control?
power?
Well, no. She didn't look like that, Eva. Yeah, that's more like it.
That's what it looks like. But
Yeah.
inside, who
Yeah.
needs to be doing this?
What's that?
Who does this?
Nazis, for one.
And it's usually coming from fear.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm sure she's afraid of this, for one thing.
yeah. And I always say, don't do it mentally. You're here, you look at the situation, look at yourself and look at the other person, but then actually take a moment and become. Breathe in and become the other person and ask, what are my limitations? My history? What do I struggle with? What are my fears? And you get so much more information that has nothing to do with you, right?
That's very good.
And it's probably acceptance.
Those people have to change though with their limitations and their expectations about life.
Good luck with that.
You know, well, that's true. That's very true. And that's what I'm saying. What do you do to your answer? Good luck with
So
that.
do you have
What's
a-
your
Right,
answer
yeah, no,
with that?
it's not.
That's not an answer.
Yeah, no.
That's,
Well, what I do is I'm gonna change her.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I
I've
agree.
tried
with you.
that.
I agree.
Well, this
with
is
you.
the
This is-
interesting thing about the forgiveness process, is many times when you've actually gone through it, out of the blue, the person calls it. Out of the blue, there's a shift. Because you're no longer hooked in
Right.
to this dance, to this blame.
Because they know they were wrong to begin with.
Give me
In
an
accusing
example.
you.
Ah.
Necessarily. No,
In
not
accusing you.
A
necessarily.
lot of
They-
times,
They may have been wrong to begin with their thought for you.
but
I
are
mean,
they
your daughter
wrong?
could be wrong with her thought about you. I mean, you're a good person, right?
Well,
Why does she
her
have that?
thoughts are her thoughts.
Right,
I don't know
right.
if they're right or
And how are you
wrong or-
gonna change that?
I can't.
No, you can't, but.
But you can change how you are.
Right. You have to raise my vibration.
If I don't need her to be a certain way for me to be okay, and I hold that in my vibration, I'm, at one with how I am. So I'll give a personal story, I think it helps,
So-
Or, do you have an example of someone who seems to have wronged you?
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Okay.
And they're not gonna change, just like your daughter's not gonna change.
What were they trying to do for themselves?
She might, well,
What were they trying to do for themselves by doing that behavior to you? For
just
themselves?
stir up dishonesty or stir up.
Take a step, instead of being in yourself, even scooch your chair, and take a moment to become that person in that situation. And as you become that person, don't do it from you, you're doing it totally from your head, the
Right.
head's never gonna get the clarity. The head is like, intellectual, doesn't get the deep meaning of things. As you become them, from inside, what are you needing as them? We'll say that them is named Dave. What is Dave needing when he's acting that way?
Yeah.
What is he needing?
He's needing materialistic things.
Because if he has those materialistic things, what will that give him?
That would give him satisfaction with his lifestyle.
So if he gets the materialistic things, he gets satisfaction.
Right.
If he gets satisfaction, what would he get that's even more important? Imagine yourself as that person,
Well, I
wanting to
guess,
get the material things, because then you can feel satisfied, you have all these things, what will that give you?
I could say love for that person or that situation, but I don't think he has it in.
So if he gets those things, will he feel love? Will he feel, what would be that thing he's trying to get? That's beyond satisfaction. If I think, okay, I get this, I feel satisfied, but I feel satisfied because I feel useful, I feel like I'm a part of the world, I feel important, I feel worthy, I feel loved. What would that be? What sense do you get that that person would achieve? And then I know that the way they're doing it is very human.
Stability.
Stability might be, because if they had stability, what will that give them?
And then when you're stable, then everything can just come from there. Everything will be right, because it's a quick fix. Like, if I got my Social Security tomorrow, I would be stable temporarily, but
Mhm.
I would be stable, and that would give me the opportunity to go back to school or to move forward, or I could also do it, in reverse. Like, I could make me more unstable. I could fall victim to, I've got a little cash in my pocket, let's go have some fun. Stability is, it can be so many different things, but what stability, what the idea of stability, my fantasy with stability is, you know, being able to pay my bills and be people. Because when you're not stable and you don't have money, or you don't have, basically money, you are, you know, I feel less than. I feel weak. I feel like I failed. And once you're, you know, for some people, when you feel like you're failed, you either curl up in a ball, or, you know, when people feel like they're backed into a corner, that's when they start doing some crazy shit.
Yeah, some crazy shit that if you're on the receiving end,
You're just
you're
like,
done.
what is happening?
And yet, if you understand that that person is coming from a place of needing stability, security, finally, know that your okayness, if you start understanding that, it becomes a little easier to go, oh, it's the behavior. They're not that, they're behaving that way. They might be behaving that way a lot of times because they're not resourceful.
But we're all still we're all still animals. Like,
Yeah.
we're all still trying to achieve a few basic points. No matter how crazy you are or how sane you are, there's a few basic goals that we can all agree on. And I always have to think that, you know, people are trying to get those things in the best possible way. But there are also people who will do some not so great stuff to get it. But no matter what, I can still relate to them because we're all kind of shooting for the same thing. It might just look different how we approach stuff.
And as you kind of just said, forgive them for they know not what they're doing. Most of the time, how many of us have we ever erred?
No?
No, never.
Yeah, I fall apart a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I can barely tell my parents fall.
So if we already come from a place of, instead of taking it personally, they're doing this to me because personally they hate me, and they go, wow, they must have a lot, right? Remember the NLP thing, always assume that what they're doing has a positive purpose, even though it might not look very healthy, right?
I also, sorry, not to interrupt you, but sometimes I think we give the negative people in our lives too much credit. Like, I have a
Yes.
one of my brothers he's so much better now, but he went a little cray-cray. He got diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, and he ended up getting arrested naked. It's very funny.
Like you.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's quite damaged in a different way. And he was doing some really, really mean shit towards me because we're very, very close. And when somebody's sick like that, they really like to go after the people who they are closest to, because if you can sever all those ties, then you don't have any reason to behave properly because you've got nobody to reflect back. But I also think there are times I was like, I'm giving him too much credit. Like, he's an idiot. He's not thinking the way I'm thinking. Like, there's no way he's thinking if I do A, B, C, and D to Cassie, I'm gonna really get her. Because he's not thinking about me at all. It's just giving him too much credit, because thinking that somebody can be that skillfully manipulative with a negative intention behind it, I just feel like it gives someone too much credit.
And the thing is, he might be experiencing what you commented about the lack of stability.
Yeah.
And the fact that he feels a lack of stability actually makes him behave in ways that from the outside seems very negative, irrational, and someone who's just needs some stability.
Ugh.
And there's
a
a
shivers. My daughter is having trouble standing up. She can't feel very stable.
And so when you don't feel stable, you lash out, but it's a way of protection. And so if you think, oh, she's to know she's safe. One of the exercises we do in NLP is actually imagine giving that person that safety. Feel it in your body. It's like yourself. Take a moment to feel where in your body you know that no matter what, it doesn't happen all the time, but no matter what, you're safe. And then imagine giving it to her in that last situation that you were with. And as you do, notice how she responds. And then actually become her. And notice what it's like. It's probably no longer, lashing and this. It's kind of like, Mom. And it makes it easier to say, it's not about me at all. I might actually be able to support this person to have new behaviors when I know that's what they're doing. I mean, think of a kid, right? Are you able to forget a kid that has a tantrum? Why?
They're a kid.
They're a kid. They're not being resourceful. You know that. They're like, oh, their emotions are just, their emotions just kind of full speed ahead, right? And we just let it go. Or, look at the bird, and kind of distract them.
She's afraid of birds.
So we don't want to use that one.
Same with pets too. We don't have, like with pets as well, we normally give them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we're assuming, are we assuming they're,
They're an animal.
They're an animal. We're not assuming they have a negative, that they're doing it to us.
It's the consciousness. Forgive them for they know what they do. They don't have the consciousness to.
And we assume it there, but we don't assume it to someone else who maybe had a terrible childhood, who maybe is feeling very scared of what's happening in their lives. We're just like, oh shit, they should have it together. We don't know what's happening in there.
In a way, it's almost selfish to think that all of those actions are about me. That was something that I came to realize. Which was like,
That's a good one, yeah.
yeah, like, oh God, aren't I vain? Like, no, this isn't about me at all. And I think when he was at his sickest, he called me from one of the hospitals and, not to overshare, but he told me that I was dead to him, that just said all these horrible things. And I just said, okay, well, if you ever change your mind, I want you to know that I will always love you and I will be here. And that's what my therapist said, like nobody was ever like, oh, they told me they loved me, what an ass. And it's like, and now, he takes his meds now and he's doing really good and he doesn't really remember a lot of those times, but he does remember that. And being able to tell him I loved him and I forgave him no matter, to a certain extent, that there wasn't anything, I don't know where I said that, there isn't anything that you can do to make me stop loving you. There's only things that you can do that might make you not be a part of my everyday life. But no matter what, I will always love you. And
Yeah, I
I
have
remember
to
that.
leave.
Okay.
Talk to you later. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
John.
Hi, John.
Maybe see you at the pool.
Yeah, nice warm pool.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was just like one of those things which is just like, it's not about you, it's so about them. They got issues. They gotta work it out. And you just have to if you can approach anything with love, it works.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
love, and a good solid cup of whiskey. Got a lot of that.
And the other thing I heard was appropriate boundaries as well.
Boundaries.
Yeah,
Boundaries are love.
Yeah.
Boundaries are hot.
yeah. The second piece, and once you get an understanding, is actually to recognize and give them. Imagine in your own, as say, give them that stability. Imagine, even if it's just energetically, I give you the stability, I give you unconditional acceptance. And as you do, you can even imagine, how are they different? And how does that change your whole understanding of the event? It's almost like being more participant, right? Instead of just react.
The phrasing of this question reminds me a lot of the story of justice. I don't know if you're know about or not, but that even in these horrible situations where somebody's been murdered, by somebody, instead of kind of more punitive punishment, that you come together to understand, so that that person who did that horrible thing understands the hurt that they actually caused. So that is their punishment, part of their punishment. And there might be other punishments that go along with it too. But that's a really important piece, so that then that's going to affect their future behavior, having that experience. But then also a chance for the victim or the person who was harmed by it to be able to come to a place to understand maybe, where the other person is coming from, and to be able to get to a point, if they want to forgive that person, whereas if it's never a conversation, there's only the court as its currently normal structure, there's not a chance to kind of develop that, more connection, understanding. So that's one of the questions that's part of that process of restorative justice, is like, how are you, how, it's like a 3 or 4 questions that you kind of go through during the circle. And one of them is like, how are you now about this, that is the focus of the circle.
And there's one thing that really breaks, this was actually about the same story of Wild Bill. This is from the book Return from Tomorrow. I want you to notice something. It said, after they, a number of weeks as they started liberating the camps, it said one of the biggest problems was the feelings against the Germans were so high that many times when the inmates were liberated, the first thing they did was seize somebody's gun, run to the nearest village, and simply shoot the first German they saw. How's that different to what happened to them? It is the same thing. You are hating in someone else what you would actually do to them. So if you actually brought the resource and instead of hating the Nazi, actually went into how could that happen? That's a misunderstanding, a fear of other, and actually worked through that. Your first response would not be immediately to go and shoot them, any German, in the same way they shot any Jew, right? So it's like, oh, wait a minute. There's a mirror going on here, isn't there? And so by really understanding the resource they need and bringing it into your body and sharing it with them, you're not healing them. It's something you need to recognize. And what I would actually propose to you guys is actually take these and write them out. I'm just kind of going through it. In my sessions, this would be, a full session to go through and actually forgive somebody. But I wanted to give you the pieces, right, to really start chewing on. A lot of times what happens is a lot of people talk about the importance of forgiveness, but it's like, yeah, well, how do you do it? This is the way. One of it. Once you create that understanding and understand the resource they need that actually you probably do too also, it kind of neutralizes the situation. And then it's much easier to forgive. Because you understand now the motives, the limitations, the beliefs, the resources you need. And now this is an interesting one. Think of somebody, or like a dog, that you easily forgive, or a child. And you think of somebody that, no matter what they did, if they wrote all over the wall with a crayon, you'd be like, and just automatically would forgive them.
The cat bit me yesterday, and 5 minutes later, yeah.
Okay, so take a moment to think about that situation and think about the cat, think about the child, that as they're even doing it or right afterwards, you automatically forgive them. And take a moment to think about that. And this is called psychogeography. Think in your head, how am I thinking about this cat that I just forgot? Am I looking at it going, they're doing that, but they're not really doing that. What am I saying to myself? How am I seeing them? Am I seeing them here? Are they here? Are they down here? Notice that. You got that?
Yeah.
Okay. You got somebody that you automatically would forgive, like your brother?
The dude Lebowski.
Okay. And notice as you think about this, is it a video or is it like a frozen, image?
Video for me.
It's like a video. Are they right here or right here? They're right here. Uh-huh. Okay, now move that over and think about a person that I blame them for everything, or they deserve to, they have to at least say sorry before I ever forgive them. Think about someone that you have difficulty forgiving right now. You got it? Okay, so now think about them, especially a situation, and then notice where in your psychogeography that unforgivable person is. Here, everywhere. Yeah, it makes it harder to forgive. Right up here. Yeah.
Trumps
And
all over the
now-
place.
Move that image to right behind the image of the one that you forgive easily. In your head, just move it up. And notice what happens. Do they feel so threatened? Do you feel so angry? Because what happens is our minds make the decision, I'm gonna hate this person, or this person deserves, and it literally creates a metaphor, a symbol of what that person I can't forgive. And so you're like, I forgive them, but this whole thing here, yeah, it's very difficult. What we're doing is actually putting a little perspective. And then it's much easier to say, ooh, could you. I love you, and then you fight me sometimes. I know you're just dealing with the.
Now, I'm dealing with my cat, and this is not an easy,
Gotta put him down.
but yeah, it's hard.
And
Understand
realize
the
his
motive,
limitations.
limitations, and
Beliefs.
what?
Beliefs.
Oh,
I'm not
beliefs. Oh, okay, 'cause I
safe,
couldn't read it.
Or money is the most important thing in life, or whatever
Oh,
else.
how do you
is-
think some? Yeah, okay.
And then what we just did is compare someone that we automatically would forgive to that person that we have to. Makes it so much easier. Because we got rid of some of the mental baggage. And I guess the most important one, and this one's actually the one I find most within us.
It's the hardest one too.
This one's the one like, oh, I can forgive you because you're human, but I have really high standards. I should know better. I shouldn't have married that person. I shouldn't have made that decision. I should have, 20 years old, I should have known that that would have, that was a bad decision. And, 30 years later, you're like, and they're the same process. Go into your 20-year-old. Do you think a 20-year-old knows about stocks or retirement plans or, who's the best person to marry? No. And know what that person needed. Oh, I didn't know this guy came out. He's so cute. That was unexpected. It's never too late to forgive ourselves for our past shortcomings and restore the feeling of excitement to our lives. It's your life. It's all exciting. Attitude of positive expectancy. That was then. This is now. So there's not that fear, right? I'm going to make another mistake and then my life is a disaster. Oh. I didn't know what I was doing then. I know what I'm kind of doing now, but I know in 20 years I'll know more. No. And I guess this one especially for ourselves or when we have maybe contributed, is instead of wallowing in the resentment, wallowing in the guilt, it doesn't have any impact on your future, right? Hating them or blaming them doesn't help us at all. What's nice is actually to take action, right? Sometimes it's to compensate, but sometimes it's to be more resilient. She should be nicer to me because I did so much for her. Well, maybe take action and become more resilient. So if she's still needy because she's going through what she's going through, it's not affecting you. She's not taking you down. You're holding the space for yourself. And I wrote about it can also strengthen the importance of the value you want to uphold, because if the value is, what you're really needing is that she loves you no matter what, if she's there, uphold that value yourself, right? Be that which you seek.
Yeah.
And if you
I
don't know
write
how,
love letters to my daughter all the
Yeah.
time.
without any need for
Yeah. In the beginning, there was need there, but the Christmas one wasn't.
and those are just seeds.
Mhm.
That to me is a really complex word, atonement.
Yeah.
At one mint.
At
One mint.
1 minute.
Become one again.
1 minute.
If something didn't feel good, you can talk about how bad it feels and how bad when she does, or you can find how can I get back into my center and bring the energy back into center. There's something I can do and there's something I can do for myself or for the situation.
It's a word I don't come across on a daily reading basis. So now seeing it before me and your description helps a lot. Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah, thanks for your comment on that, because I think of atonement to also mean like, let's see, what else do I think about it?
Atoning for your
Where you have
sins.
to do
Yeah.
something for the other person, for something that you've done wrong. That's kind of how I think of it more.
Mhm.
But in some ways, it's part of the forgiveness process. is how you-
And think about it, a lot of times it's your expectations about what the other person should be doing for you, which is the reason why you're so angry at them or you don't forgive them. They shouldn't have said that, they shouldn't have taken that. When I come visit and, prepare everything for them, they should be grateful and not get all reactive. Well, who's got the issue?
As you're showing that, I was thinking about the work that we've been doing, and that a lot of it is just, I don't even really think about it. It just kind of is starting to happen. And the thing about my husband's behaviors that have always just driven me up the wall. And I just had something happen with him this morning. And I just noticed it, but it didn't have any kind of an energy behind it at all. And it was, and I didn't think about it until just now when we were talking, doing this presentation, that was completely different than any way I've ever heard anything before. But like you said, I don't think about this. I mean, at the moment, it's not like something I'm going, oh, look what happened. Oh yeah, it's just kind of becoming. It's just happening.
That's huge. That's
Just,
huge.
I thought about it, this morning, and it's like, that would have just driven me up the wall. And I had just no reaction to it at all. Thank you, Evan.
You didn't go for the ice cream.
And you did a good person.
And I didn't
Speaking
smack him over the
of
head with a
which.
frying pan.
Yes.
You do that all the time.
You guys can do it in twos.
I'm thinking for
Can I do
the
the cans?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
we
yeah,
have-
sure.
Maybe drop
Was this the
this
chain
a
breaking?
little lower
Yeah.
so that it's, it,
Yeah,
Was-
so if you, yeah, like
I'm
obviously I'm
not
not
sure,
sure.
but I was saying should
Yeah.
just on it now.
It's too high?
Don't have a curved price for it.
Right.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
exactly what it is, but I guess
But
breaking that, like,
if we
it's
had
so
that
big,
lower,
So,
then it
something
would,
that you're
the
not all
whole
that
shot would be more
interested
centered
in.
on the.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then you